Welcome to 5 O'Clock Tales. I'm Molly Wellmann, and I'm here to show you some classic cocktails and tell you some stories and hopefully brighten your day. I'm really excited about this episode because I'm going to show you a great classic cocktail made with a very special, really great whiskey that I'm really into right now. This is Uncle Nearest. And if you haven't had Uncle Nearest, this is definitely something you're going to want in your collection. It is a fantastic Tennessee whiskey. Now, this whiskey was put together by a wonderful woman named Fawn Weaver. She's a historian and a writer and just a lovely woman. She found this bit of great American history, and she was going to go and share it while she's doing research, but instead landed into putting a whiskey label together. What a great way to tell this American story and have a glass of incredible, wonderful Tennessee whiskey. That's what I say. This story is about a gentleman named Nathan Green. Nathan Green was in Lynchburg, Tennessee in the 1850s. He worked for a man named Dan Call, who was a preacher and a grocer and a farmer, and he also had a distillery. Well, Nathan Green was the distiller, and he was the best distiller. He was one of the best in the whole country. He was the one who came up with what we call the Lincoln County process, which is a way of filtering whiskey through sugar maple charcoal. They still use it in a lot of Tennessee whiskey, and they use it for this one as well. Nathan Green learned this when he lived in Africa for filtering water. They would make charcoal and they would filter the water through it. So when he was distilling, why not filter your whiskey through charcoal to, get some of the impurities out, hopefully make a smoother whiskey. So he did that. Now, Dan Call at the same time had a apprentice come on and want to work and learn from him on the farm. And this was a very common thing for young, especially young boys to do, and girls to go and apprentice to find a profession. Well, this little boy came and he became very interested in distilling. So Dan Call introduced him to Nathan Green, and Nathan Green took him under his wing and taught him everything he knew about distilling. That little boy's name was Jack Daniels. And Jack Daniels went on in the 1870s to open his own distillery. It is probably one of the biggest whiskey brands in the world. He actually hired, when he opened his distillery, he actually hired a lot of Nathan Green's children. And to this day, the descendants of Nathan Green still work at the Jack Daniels distillery, which I think is just so cool. This is a phenomenal whiskey. So make sure you get yourself some. I'm going to show you this really great cocktail that was created by another gentleman of color. This cocktail is called the All Right cocktail. I thought that was appropriate as well because I think we're all going to be all right going through this. And I think the gentleman who came up with this drink knew that everything would be all right as well. So that guy's name was Tom Bullock. Tom Bullock was a black bartender who worked in Louisville, Kentucky, and then spent a lot of time in St. Louis making drinks behind the bar. He was one of the best bartenders in St. Louis, and he actually wrote a book. He was the first black gentleman to write a cocktail book called The Ideal Bartender. And this drink happens to be in it. I think it's just wonderful. Now, being a black bartender in the United States before Prohibition it depended on where you were, really, to know if it was accepted or not. In St. Louis, it was accepted. Some parts of the North, it was accepted. In the South, it was accepted. But a lot of parts in the North, it wasn't accepted. Cincinnati was one of those cities, unfortunately, that wasn't accepted. There is a story about a gentleman named Louis Deal. And I think this is a story that we should all know. It is a part of our history, and it is a part of Black history as well. Louis Deal was a bartender. He was actually a bar owner in Cincinnati. He moved around a lot. He found himself in Cincinnati. He opened his own saloon on West 5th Street. It's kind of where the highways go through now. And he didn't do very well. He lost a lot of money. So he decided that he would close up shop and he would go and work for someone else. He ended up working for the Atlas Hotel. A guy named Frank Beck was the proprietor and saw a lot in Louis Deal. Louis Deal worked his way up from porter all the way to assistant bartender. When the head bartender of the Atlas Hotel didn't perform his duties very well, Frank was the first one to put Louis in that position, and he did so well. He was one of the most efficient, most polite, most cleanest, most greatest bartenders I think we've had in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, the Bartenders Guild in Cincinnati didn't really like this idea of having a black man as a bartender behind the bar, as a head bartender. So unfortunately, he was not able to be in that position. Louis went on to move somewhere else where he could be in his profession, and the rest is history. So remember Louis Deal. He is a part of our history and one of the best bartenders that we've ever had. Let's get to this drink though, shall we? This is a really fun drink and I think you're really gonna enjoy it. First of all, we're gonna need some whiskey. Now, the original recipe for this would call for rye whiskey, but I've had it with the Nearest and it is fantastic and you're going to love it. So we're going to use 2 ounces of Uncle Nearest. There we go, right in the glass that you're gonna drink out of. Just a little old-fashioned glass will do just fine. Okay, put that right there. Then you're going to need some triple sec. You don't need too much. We're only going to use 1/4 ounce of this. We don't need it to be too sweet. You're sweet enough, like I said. We're going to just enhance little great parts of this whiskey. We're not adding anything to cover anything up. We're bringing out beautiful parts of this whiskey, and there are some beautiful parts in this whiskey. You're going to love it. So just add that right into your glass. And then bitters. Now, bitters are going to bring everything together and balance everything out. Just about 2 dashes, 2 or 3 dashes, just fine. And then your ice. So just a couple cubes. And then give it a stir. And that's it. There you have it. This is called the All Right cocktail, and it is going to be all right. I promise. It'll be all right, especially after drinking this All Right cocktail, made especially for you from the book Ideal Bartender by Tom Bullock. Cheers, everyone. Happy drinking. I'll see you tomorrow, and thank you so very much. Cheers.